Hi, I'm Terry Darney. I was in my third year teaching English at American University. I was teaching mostly Chinese students while soldiering through what seemed to be the worst flu of my life. Abruptly, the flood of students entering our program was shut down by the pandemic. I had been using videos as part of a hybrid flipped classroom, but overnight, teaching online was the only way to interact with students. Even the ones I'd been seeing on campus were dialing in from their dorm rooms. It was suddenly time to upgrade my PowerPoint and video skills, way beyond what had previously worked. I learned a lot of tricks very quick. This video is my way of passing those skills forward to educators who want to become effective and efficient with PowerPoint. Increasingly, teachers are seeing value in the hybrid flipped classroom. Students view video content in advance of class so that they're more able to spend time in interactive experiences while they're in the classroom. I've been using PowerPoint as a tool for teaching since 2006. Only when I had to start producing a lot of videos did I realize how essential some of the imaging and movement features could be to engaging an audience. When your students are half a world away and watching you probably at 3 a.m. their time, the visuals better bounce. I've made many videos on how to use PowerPoint, but the feedback I got was that students lost track of the component videos. Why not put everything in one longer video that you could return to? Might be helpful. This is it. But it's too long to sit and absorb technical details. I can hear you saying that. I won't remember everything. I can hear you saying that. And I agree. I've done a few things to manage those concerns. First, you will find little questions on the right-hand side of the screen, like over there, that highlight what is being presented. It's easier to scan through quickly and find a particular section of the video. Second, you will have noticed that there is an index underneath the video that lets you find a question that interests you. Next to it will be the exact minute and seconds of the video that will provide the answer. Third, the training is organized in progression that lets you move from constructing a simple PowerPoint to building engaging videos. Fourth, I've given an introductory overview of each major section of the venue and also done a hands-on application on a live PowerPoint example. And finally, I will ask you after each major section, and you need to do this to get the most benefit, I will ask you to stop and try out your skills on a project of your own. So, this video is constructed more along the lines of an encyclopedia and less like a novel. I hope these innovations will give you a reliable resource for some time to come.
Like many educators, I have 4 questions. How do the parts work? Which are important to delivering my lessons? How does each part help me? How can I use each part of the menu in designing a presentation? How can I make my presentation more engaging, particularly online? We can afford to have very few boring presentations. How do I make videos from my presentations? I'm going to show you how easy it is to jump from good PowerPoint to a professional looking video. Let's take a look at the PowerPoint menu. There are 12 major functions on the menu, each of which can lend value, but some will be more important to learn early than others. Here they are. That's a lot of options, and that's the top set of options on your menu. We're not going to attempt to learn them all in the next 15 minutes, but we're going to focus on important ones and work our way through the list so that by the time we get done, you will be a guru. A teacher is likely to have several pragmatic questions about the menu's parts. How do they work? How does it help me? How does all this work together? We're going to address the first two in the current section. The third question will to some extent get answered along the way, but there will be sections at the end that provide tips on how to get the most out of your new skills. We're going to work our way systematically through the menu, just as a mechanic might inspect and work with the components of a jet. Someone has to know how it works. But someone has to fly the plane, and that's a different set of skills. So we'll focus on them separately. In your case, you're going to build, repair, and fly the jet, but not all at one time. Everything begins and ends with file. We get our presentation started here, and we save or send it on to other options right here in File. Along the left side of your screen, you're seeing a lot more options than just Open and Save. We set up our presentation on its path with New, but New has a lot of options of its own. Let's take a look at New. We could select Blank Presentation and get something like this. Or we can start with a template. There are dozens of templates with special categories for education, for example. These are a few of the templates. We'll open one up in a few minutes. Just remember, while templates are tempting and often the smart move, they require some depth of knowledge to get the most out of them. Or there's infographics. Here's a lot of choices in infographics that can be handy in the classroom. After you've made your choice, you'll need to save your work. I recommend you set up a folder and perhaps subfolders. Once you start using this technology regularly, you can have a lot of balls in the air. It will be good to have a place for everything and everything in its place. I also recommend developing a file name protocol so that in 3 years, when you are looking to recover some work, it will be easy to work out the name. Open seems self-explanatory, but remember, you will be given the option of opening files from wherever PowerPoint defaults, or you can choose to open by folder. If you selected specific folders, it will be easier to get back to files you worked on previously or last semester. Save will save or update your files, but Close will save your file while not closing the application. Save As can be useful. You can save your file under an alternate name, or you can choose to save it as a PDF instead of PPTX. This won't affect your PPTX files, but it will give you a much lower byte intensive document that you can share with people. Then there's export, and export will become more important when we graduate to making videos. You may want to change the default in options. Click to save files to a designated folder rather than mix them in with your personal documents. If your native language is not English and you are attending a university in England or the United States, you should make sure that language is set to English for purposes of word editing. Otherwise, it's not going to know which words are spelled correctly.
Now we're ready to go into a live file and get our hands on the gears. We're going to work our way through the file options just as you would see them in a PowerPoint presentation. As we go, I hope you will pause the video from time to time and try these things on your own computer. My philosophy of teaching is first, tell them what you're going to tell them. Second, show them. And finally, make them do it. And that's how people tend to learn things in the real world. So apply each section as we go, and you will become skilled, and all the things that follow will be far less confusing. Let's create a new file. Go to File, and then select New. So here we are, New. You see that we have two directions to go. We can choose blank. You see a large slide, which will be your canvas. Comes up with provisions for a title and subtitle, which you'll usually have a use for on your first slide. After that, you insert a duplicate or complete blank for the next slide. We'll discuss just what we do with that and other options when we take a look at the home menu. But for right now, let's do a quick add-in. We can go to Home, and we can select New Slide, and we could add another blank if we wanted, or go to New Slide and select one of these templates, or we can go to New Slide and duplicate that slide. So we have options. We're going to take a look at the templates. As you'll see, the templates come up at the same time that the blank presentation does, except that there are hundreds of templates that are just waiting for you. And they fall into different categories that have been set up: presentations, themes, charts, diagrams, business infographics. But what I think you'll really find useful is education. So we're going to take a look at education. So under education, we've got dozens of interesting starting points. Basically, if you look at them and it looks like a model that might fit with what you want to present, then you can take and reshape it to what you want to do. Some of these are geared to math, some are geared to more scientific presentations, and they're ready to go. Now, the one I'm going to show you briefly is Modern, Bold, Sophisticate right here at the top, and it's available to anyone at any time. And simply click on it and click Create, and that comes up. Now, you'll notice when it comes up that you have 9 different slides along the side, and they're all in slightly different configurations so that you can go through and modify those configurations if the general idea looks good to you. You'll see that the headings, well, they're in recognizable English. Let's put a title on this. Okay, our own title. Now you'll look down below that and you'll notice that lorem ipsum dolor is the presenter. Well, you'll put your name in there. And yes, that does seem like an odd name. And what you'll find is most of the things that are not headings are in this kind of made up language that looks a little bit like Latin, a little bit like Greek, and a little bit like other languages. Just to fill the places, you put what you need to go in there. All right, so I'm going to put my name. Okay, and as quick as that, simple as that, I've got the first page done. If I like graphics, I can continue. If I want to replace that picture with something else, because my theme is slightly different, or maybe I'm presenting something about the teachers at my school, I can put some pictures, some action teachers in the middle of it to make it more interesting to those who are going to be viewing it. And to the wise, when doing presentations, PowerPoints and videos, the more of your students that you can include, the more will watch. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so we can save this and use the save as, because if you just save it, what's going to happen is it's going to make it some generic name like present 3, and you don't want that. So you need to go to File and Save As. And if you remember back earlier in the video, we went through and created a set of folders so that we could put things into them. And this is one of them, Class 1. I've set this up so I can deposit things into it, and I'm going to deposit my test file. And I've already done this a few times, so I'm going to just stay with the title that I have for that. And it's going to ask me, oh, you want to overwrite it? Yeah, I'm okay with that in this case, but be careful in the future. Okay, that is something about the literally hundreds of template choices that you have available and your ability to manipulate them to fit whatever you want to do. Okay, let's take a look at some of these other options on file. We've already used new. We have opened files. If we want to, up here at the top, we have the option basically of going home. That's the get out of Dodge option. Info, not much of interest there. Saving basically continues your project, but it updates it. Save as saves what you have under a different name than it has at the moment. And like I say, if it's a generic, like presentation 1 or 2, then you want to make it a name that you'll recognize in the future. You may also want to create templates of your own around the classes that you teach and save them to names like Calculus 304-1, that kind of thing. So it's easy for you to go back in a few years and take a look at them and pull back what you want to use in the future. Okay, printing, no big deals here. Printing works pretty much the same in PowerPoint as it does in all the other Microsoft products, so we won't dwell on that. Sharing is an interesting option for if you're working in a matrix organization, you're able to save your PowerPoint as PowerPoint and send it off to someone, or you could save it as a PDF. And what I have to warn you about the PDF, if you have a fairly complex presentation that has layers, and you will after you learn something about how to do animation, then it's only going to show the front page. So if you want to send it to someone, if you have a simple presentation, PDF, no problem. If it's more complex, but you just want to send it to someone to give them a flavor of what you're doing, I do that every once in a while, then you can use the PDF. Otherwise, you're stuck with a much more bite-intensive PowerPoint presentations. All right, so we're going to close that out, and we're going to go back to File, and we've done Share. Export we will come back to later in the course, because basically export is all about transforming your PowerPoints into other things, and in particular, changing them into videos. You're not ready for that. Well, maybe you are, I don't know. You're the clown that's already teaching this stuff, right? But if you're the average person watching this, you're not ready to instantly turn things into videos. But when we get there, you will have beautiful PowerPoint products, and you will be able to turn them in a matter of minutes into a credible video. And then we'll even go a step beyond that, and we'll talk a little bit about editing. Okay, so that's the export function. Closing is something we do as we go along the way. And as you see, I just closed the template file that we had open. What happens when you close, what makes that different, is that it literally goes to bed. It leaves the room so that it's no longer in the application. Whereas if you hit save, it updates what you have in your files, but what you're working with stays in front of you. And finally, down here at the bottom, we have three kind of vague options that you're not going to normally have much use for. The only one that I recommend you take a look at is options, because it gives you the ability to change the language that you're operating in, so that the grammar corrections, spelling corrections are appropriate for what you're writing. In other words, in this case, they should be set to English. And also it gives you the ability to set a standard place to save things, so that if rather than going to wherever PowerPoint decides they want to go, or any of 100 different files that you have set up, it automatically goes back to those special teacher course files that you pre-created as we've gone along here in the course. Then that's what you want to change. Okay, that is file. It's been a short, quick tour, but I hope you see that operating your file, organizing your file is going to be very important to your success. Hi, Terry Doherty here. In today's session, we're going to talk about home and all the things that you can do in home. Home is not, it's not as fancy, it's not as glitzy, it doesn't go as deep into artistry as many of the other segments do, but it's a section of PowerPoint that does almost everything. And so that if you had to get along with only one real plain type of menu, home would be it. Fortunately, you don't, but we're going to go over home. We're going to see some of the things that you can do there, because everyone needs to be familiar with the full capacity of home to get the most out of PowerPoint. Let's hit it. Home will be your best friend as a novice presenter. You can do a great deal. You just can't do the things that separate good presenters from outstanding presenters. Home is always open for business. It is the default menu that opens up when you begin to work. By the way, you should find a small arrow in the top right of the screen. And when we open that up, if we go down to Show Tabs Commands, that exposes all the menus for us so that we can see all the options that are available to us on home, or any of the other menus that we choose to work with. So that's a great start right there.
Home, be it ever so humble, is where we spend most of our time and get most of our work done. Home in PowerPoint It's a lot like that. When I was younger, much younger, I was a Boy Scout. My pride and joy was a Swiss Army knife. It had tools for every wildlands challenge, none of which worked as well as the full-size tools, but they worked. Home is the Swiss Army knife of the PowerPoint menu. You can't do all the fancy things we'll be able to do with specialized menus later on, but you can do most things reasonably well. Our PowerPoint Swiss knife is sharp and handy. It's got things like cut and paste, manage slides, format, align and organize, draw shapes, color shapes, find stuff, even dictate, and finally, great ideas. The first tool on our PowerPoint offers a pair of scissors. Cut and paste. Often in PowerPoint, we need to snip something out of the picture, or copy it, or put it somewhere else. We've blown up this session. It's labeled Clipboard.
Let's take a look at Clipboard. We're going to start out by doing a little pasting. And here we have a kind of an irregular version of the Gettysburg Address. It's not terribly well formatted. So let's format it because we have all the tools that we need to do that up here. And I'm going to highlight it. And let's see, I'm not sure about the bolding, but let's put it into italics. And let's go over here to paragraph. And if we go to paragraph and go right up here to line spacing, we can make it double spaced. We can go down to line spacing options and we can align it to the left, just like the APA wants us to do. And we can go down and check first line. Okay, that's good. All right, that looks like a winner. Let's see what happens. Okay, now we have a couple of relatively beautiful looking paragraphs. What if we want to format something else? You know, do we have to go through all those steps? Well, not necessarily. We have this highlighted now. If we go back up and click Brush and come down to the next slide where I have a bunch of unformatted stuff, I can rush over it and bang, we have the formatting in place. Clipboard is not restricted to just messing around with the words. We can also paste in pictures.
Managers try to reduce chaos and shape the direction of a group. Next on our menu is Manage Slides. Files is the place to start, but beyond the first slide, you may want to insert or shuffle these key pieces of your presentation.
Okay, the next thing we're going to take a look at are these tools for managing slides. And that basically is up here, not surprisingly, listed above slides. We just open it up. We can choose blank, which we're used to, but you also have several different layouts you can choose from. For example, you can do a comparison. You can do two with content. You don't necessarily have to go and choose from these selections. You can go back and choose to duplicate an existing slide, particularly when you've developed something that is a little beyond this real minimalistic sort of slides, that you may want to use the duplication. And we just duplicate it and we get the same slide down here. Layout is just pretty much along the same lines. Let's take a look at a blank slide. If we go to layout, we can select, let's say, content with caption. It will change the slide that we have. So we can use new slide for adding slides on with different formats, or we can use layout to change the slides that we have. And of course, we have a reset button that we can go back and change over. Now, if you are doing a joint project or simply doing a long presentation, or sometimes you maybe have a module that you want to divide up, you can use sections. And with sections, we just click an area that we want to have a section in. We go to sections and add section. And then you have a section that you can name and use as kind of like a chapter within your presentation.
How we dress for an occasion tells people a lot about our level of sophistication. How we present our words says a lot about our knowledge of the subject and audience. Format. Under font, you can dress your letters for academic writing or color them and shape the theme for comic effect.
Let's take a look at format. Format is a feature that's very similar to what we have in Word. But if you're not familiar with Word, then you need to be able to use it in PowerPoint. If we look up here under the menu for font, this is where we're going to find most of our format features. One of them, let's pick a word. We can go through and bold words, make them pop out more. Or we could color those same words in a variety of colors to make whatever points we want to make with that. We can go through and select a group of words and italicize them, or perhaps underline them. We can also jump up here and change the fonts that our words are in, or we could change the size of those words. Make them bigger, make them smaller, either way. So we can also determine whether or not we want them to be capitalized or uppercase or sentence case or a variety of setups. Let's just make them all uppercase. That's good. Let's try lowercase. Okay. So, and then we could do sentence case, and they'll at least all start with the correct alignment.
Let's leap to the next tool. In many things, being correctly aligned for the situation can make a big difference. In paragraph, you can align, add numbers or dots, and set paragraph formats, just as in Word.
Just as with Word, we'll have the need to align text in PowerPoint. For example, we have this set of ideas that have been written out, and we can go up and choose to align them left or right or center or justified. You can also divide them into columns. And depending on how they are organized in those columns, they may look a little differently. Arrange, except it's somewhat more three-dimensional than the alignment that we normally use with text. We find arrangement over under drawing. And if we click on arrangement and have highlighted something, we can bring it to the front or the back, or we can move it a little towards the back or a little towards the front. Precision parachutist. And let's move them to the back. And now they're behind all the other things that we have arranged. Oh. Highlight a group of shapes and go to arrange and align them so that they can be aligned all on one side. Or they could be aligned the top, or we can align them across the screen. Hi, Terry Doherty here. In today's session, we're going to talk about home and all the things that you can do in home.
Speak, friend, and enter. Even wizards flub translations sometimes. English words are the real passwords for global business and academia. But like in the wizard's cave, they can be a challenge to translate from your first language. Would you like to speak and have your words transcribed instantly? Have you ever wanted to use your first language and have it translated quickly to English? Perhaps subtitles in a different language would enhance your presentation. Perhaps you can in PowerPoint. Let's start with dictation. Dictation, to speak and have your words written down for you. Good stuff. You begin dictation, click the blue microphone in the top right-hand corner. When it turns red, click it. You should get a little red dot. Now, everything that I'm saying is going to be recorded. Period. And you saw what happened there. So we're able to add punctuation. Period. Do you like that? Question mark. All right, so you see how this works, and it's really quite easy to do. So we have spoken, and we are putting words into PowerPoint. We can do the same thing almost identically with Word. Now it's time to translate. We now have the words that we generated when speaking for dictation. Now let's translate it into Spanish. To do this, we go to Review and then to Translate. Okay, it comes up. It's set to translate from English to Spanish. We highlight the words that we want translated, and they are immediately translated into Spanish, just like that. Now, there's more, because we can go down and grab the Spanish. Okay, you will see that I have replaced the English with Spanish. Now, let's see if we can make it work the other way. We have Spanish, the Spanish translation of the text that we did a moment ago. Now, we're going to translate again We go to review, we go to translate. It comes up, it is already set in Spanish, and we're going to translate it to English, so we need to change that setting. And as you can see, we have successfully translated from Spanish to English. So translations can flow in either direction, and there are literally dozens of languages that we can do this with. English doesn't even have to be involved. We have now returned to the Wizard's Cave. We're going to set subtitles so that they translate automatically into Spanish as we speak. We go to SLIDESHOW, and over on the right-hand side, you're going to find subtitle settings. Let's just open that up. And you'll see that you can select the microphone that you're going to use. You can select the spoken language and the language you're going to translate into. In this case, it's going to be Spanish. You can choose where you would like to have the words come in on the slide. They can be below the slide. They can be overlaid on the slide at the top or the bottom. We're going to select bottom overlay. And just to make sure everything's nailed down, we're going to go up and click Always Use Subtitles. Begin our presentation. And as we begin our presentation, you will notice that Spanish is filling in at the bottom. The paragraph settings lets you get even more organized. If you are presenting 2 or 5 different ideas on the slide, SmartArt can provide beautiful bubbles, squares, circles for your thoughts, or even reshape the letters in your words.
Being organized is very important in PowerPoint presentations. And there are a couple of features that will help you a great deal with that. One are simple burger dots. We can click those and they will put dots at the heading of all the key sentences in whatever we happen to be presenting. Or perhaps we want to number it, and we can number them and put them in position that way. Also, we have the ability to go in and change the spacing and to do things like add indentations to the first lines and perhaps a little skipping after each paragraph.
Maybe you need to get in shape, or shaped up, or just make shapes. Draw, position, and modify hundreds of shapes to make your presentation more visual.
Let's take a look at shapes. Shapes, we have a great variety of different things that we can choose from. You can choose lines and arrows, or you can choose actual shapes. For example, there's a star back, and it's kind of assuming we wanted to color that right away, which we'll get to that. But generally speaking, it's going to give you a default color as you come out. And let's say we chose this arrow, and we can choose this line that allows us to create kind of a swirly cube.
Before color movies and TV, everything was black and white. That can be boring in a presentation. So you can liven up your shapes with colors and even 3D effects.
But we can change the colors, we can change the format on any of these As you can see up above, you have several buttons that if I were to highlight a particular one, I can change the colors very quickly and have quite a display. So a lot of choices for adding in to create shapes and colored shapes.
We can do amazing things in PowerPoint, but what to do when we lose stuff? As in most Microsoft Office applications, we can hunt for and replace our words under editing.
As in Word, we occasionally will have the need to find specific words or to change those words or to eliminate those words. And we have a fairly simple device for accomplishing that. We simply go over here to the right under editing at the top. And if we want to find a particular word, we put the word in and let's find design. And there it is. We can choose to find a whole group of words if we want, and we can choose to replace that word. We can choose to replace that word. Let's replace design with drawing. Simple, but very often useful.
Authors call it writer's block. You just can't come up with a good idea. So how would it be if PowerPoint would give you a dozen good ideas on how to rearrange your layout anytime you want?
This is design ideas. And if you look down the side, a lot of times, at least the way mine is set up, this comes on automatically. If it doesn't, there's ways to bring it in, but usually it's going to come up by default. And if I go down through here, I can pick several possible layouts and move them around until I get something that I'm really happy with.
Help is a handy resource that's always available on call. It's located down at the end of our row of main menus. It is probably not the last place you will want to look. The Help menu gives you 5 options. 4 of them are nice to have. A way to contact support directly, a feedback for anything you really like or hate, a nice set of training programs, and an update tag for anything new that changes. Most of the benefit comes, however, from that question mark at the beginning of the row. Here you have answers to many people's questions, and most importantly, a query to ask your own questions. The only drawback to Help that I've found is that it sometimes gives you a very specific answer to questions that require context to understand. But that's what videos like mine are for. Let's face it, we've all got a lot to tell our students. But if all you have on your slide is a jumble of words, then you might as well send them an email. While you may be delivering a polished lecture, they will be reading along or ahead or behind on the slide and totally ignoring what you have to say. This is particularly true if you're teaching an online audience. This type of PowerPoint has a name: boring. But not to worry. The cure for boring presentations has been discovered. It's in the PowerPoint icon insertions. The cure for boring is visuals. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Where do we get all those pictures worth 1,000 words? Let's look at the menus. Then we'll switch over to a live PowerPoint file and see what we can do. We start at the top of the PowerPoint at the main menu, and right next to Home, we find something called Insert. Insert is one of the most valuable menus on the list of menus, so get to know it. We open it up, and if we look right inside, down towards, about a third of the way down, there's a little birdie marked Icons. Icons are where we're going to find all those pictures, photos, and cartoons. So we open that up. When we open that up, generally it's going to come up with some, icons, graphic expressions of different ideas and different perspectives. You can, you see that it says search information. You can put in almost any topic, and something specific to what you want to do will come up. Let's start with images. First on our list at the top, we've got 7 different places to go. And as you can see, the steps to get there are insert, icons, and then select images. There are literally hundreds, perhaps thousands of possible pictures that are available to you. And you can put in any kind of query that relates to the topic that you're planning to speak on, and something will come up. It'll not only be a visually compelling picture, but it will be copyright free. There will be no danger of mistakenly using someone else's photos. These are photos that come with PowerPoint. Okay, next, icons. We referred to them earlier. Icons are just graphic representations of different ideas, different things, different occupations, different trades, a whole variety of things. They're very simple, but a lot of times simple is good. It's enough to get your audience's attention, and then you can proceed to explain what all that simple symbolism is about without them getting distracted by words. Next up are the cutout people. I use these quite often. The cutouts are a range of people. They have different names. There's half a dozen of them. They're different ages. They're different situations, and they can make great backdrops to whatever point you're making. And then there's this bunch. These are the stickers. There's whole groups of them. There's particular names for them. I think most of the cast is visible to you now. And around each of these, there are a lot of little stories, a lot of little poses that you can select from. I would say right offhand that this is more for your younger audience, but you can find some really good material here with stickers. This is one of the coolest things. There are hundreds of videos, very short videos that as long as you have a reasonably powerful computer, you'll be able to download them and include them right into your PowerPoint. You can go in and select. We'll take a look at just what those are that are available to you later on, but they make great backdrops, and they can make the point in a way that the modern generation of graphics-oriented students can relate to. Okay, then we have illustrations. And illustrations, they're basically cartoon-like figures of different situations. And again, this one's probably a little more for the kids, but they're good. They're good artwork, and you've got a lot to choose from here. And then finally, we have the cartoon people, and we can use them much as the way that we used that group of cutout people, except that these people are in cartoon form. They come with different names, they come with different categories, and you've got a lot of different moods and actions to choose from. So very handy.
Now we're going to actually jump over into a live file and work our way through that. After that, it's up to you. But but I would apply this very quickly to your own files, and you'll find that you can do everything that I display here today with ease. So we're going to go up here and we're going to open up Insert. Then we're going to go over to that birdie again. We're going to open up Icons. And as you see at the top, we have 7 possible categories of illustrations that we can use to give life to our presentations. And we're going to start with images. So if with images, if we're doing a presentation on business, let's say we want to do a business presentation. Just type in business. And we get all kinds of business people coming up so that we can create a backdrop for our presentation, whether it's talking about marketing or meetings or stocks. There's a little bit of everything here. Let's try one more. This is usually pretty good. Weather. Talking about weather is pretty important skill set. And we have all kinds of pictures that can relate to weather, different seasons of the year. So quite a lot to choose from. And this is just from weather. All right, let's say we're going to do a discussion on weather. How do we get these great pictures? Well, I'm going to pick 4 that look like they might fit with a theme. Let's go with the umbrella. Let's go with cloud, weather pictures, and they're ready to go. The icons are basically relatives of those little emojis that we see. In fact, you see a few of them sitting around here. But you can go through and you can pick them from different categories like medical. We can pick bugs or animals, occupations. So a wide range. A lot of times we don't want a super detailed graphic to back us up. We want enough to build our story around. And these can be pretty efficient for that purpose. There they are. So icons, easy to pick, a lot of variety available to you. Simplistic, but a lot of times simplistic is good. Okay, cut out people. We have a whole team of people just waiting to work for us in our presentation. Right? Let's go over here. We select cut out people and up they come. And we'll move this a little bit. All right. And I use this guy because he is kind of, well, he's a student for sure. And we can go up here and we can go through, there's different names. All right, here's Mr. Fu. He's enthusiastic about something. And over here is Christina. And Christina has some things to say. And we just click insert. There's a dozen different versions of each of these dozen different people that are available to bring down. They're going to be in various states of emotion and action, and you can use them to make your points. Stickers, by and large, are insects and vegetables of all sorts. Like we got moody foodies here, so we've got this watermelon guy. There's a dude over here, and going to put him in, and then we're just going to drop him down. We insert, and over here, there we go. All right, so there's the 3 things that we inserted. Again, hundreds of possibilities. You can just go in the top and select a particular theme, and it'll narrow it right down, and you'll see the stickers that are most appropriate for the presentation that you are doing. And now, this is my favorite part. Don't want to overdo it, but I quite often use videos as a highlight, as a starter, or as a concluder with my presentations, because, well, they're lively and quite often they can be very interesting. And let's just pick cats. And we get a bunch of cats, and we can select the interesting looking cats that we want to drop down. I don't know what story we would make out of this, but there they are. We insert our cats. Okay, here's our cats, and we're going to focus on this cat. And let's see. We're going to go to slideshow, and we're going to go from current, and there's our cat. Now, not doing too much, but doing a little bit, enough in the background that we know that we've got a cat. Different things are appropriate for different audiences. They're generally in different shades of black and gold, and they cover a wide range of different areas. We can do, you know, a dragon, maybe a little Harry Potter, and let's select something for, well, we want to do something about school. So up they pop, and we're going to do something about the science lab. And I'm inserting a couple of things that relate to science. And insert. Okay, so there's our science. They're, you know, nice artwork, quickly available. And if we're doing a talk about planets, we're ready. I'm not sure if they have all possible planets, but, you know, clearly we can give a talk about Saturn without too much difficulty. Cartoon people. Now, the cartoon people are going to be more appropriate when we want to actually do some work, because we can drop a face, and maybe we can put an expression on it, and then maybe we can put it into a body. And let's insert these, maybe make it a little bit bigger for emphasis. And then we bring the face back over, and we're going to make that a little bit bigger for emphasis. And as much as I hate to say it, we appear to have a rather grumpy old guy. So those are icons. Those are the keys to having lots of free graphics to back up your presentations. And we will be looking at other aspects of insertion in other films, but we have covered quite a bit of territory here today. And the key to success is apply it. Try these things out while they're fresh in your mind. Word art. Word art is the next step up from words. You know, you see over here, you can always throw a text box down, and that's fine. But if you want to create a headline that grabs attention, then word art is a good place to start, because you can have all kinds of choices available to you there. And you can make something like you see here, but you can make it in any of those colors. You can make it in a wide range of different designs. You can insert the text box just like we did in home. That's always an option. It should be the last option. You can insert pictures, and this is where I want to take you, where I want to guide you in your design creativity, is towards using pictures that capture the idea. And very seldom when we find a photo or a picture that says everything that we want to say, but if you can look at the picture and it makes your mind immediately remember the words, the descriptions that you wanted to tell the students, then it's a good picture, because they will be able to remember it in the future. Outlining, you can do a variety of things to change the color of your pictures, to change the shape of your pictures, to change the outlines and thickness and type of outline. And as you can see up here, you know, and we're working our way across. We looked at the pictures, we looked at the shapes that you can use. There's photos that you can pull off of the online or off of your machine. And then there's this special little spot over here about charts. So particularly if you're taking something that involves a lot of data, some of you have probably had some math courses, Maybe some of you have given some math courses, and you know that numbers alone are just like words. They can be overwhelming, but if you can take them and convert them to something visual, it's a lot easier for most of us to understand what you're trying to get across. We have a three-dimensional models section here at the top, there with that little square. All kinds of interesting things, from dinosaurs to airplanes to rocket ships, that you can use to give your presentation a little bit more jazz.
Transition aimed for smooth changes from one slide to another. For design, we focus on the slide themselves to create a consistent theme. Design is aimed more at creating your look from color, text, style, and shapes in your presentation. Take care. It will impose changes on all your slides, so check on the guide on your left to assess the overall effect. We'll try design in an active file in a moment. First, I'd like to revisit a feature you may recall from earlier, design ideas. Design ideas lets you quickly see various design layout for a specific slide and implement them instantly. Now, we'll try these design features in an active file.
I have prepared 5 slides for this example presentation. We're going to try a few of these possible designs. For example, suddenly we have this kind of interesting background to what we're doing. Or we could switch it to this, or we could switch it to this. So we have quite a variety of things that we can do that are prepackaged, just waiting for us to happen. And as you slide across, you get a quick preview. So you don't really have to spend a lot of time trying out each design, but as you hit it, it will change the whole layout overall. Okay, that's one approach to design. Now we can get down and get into the detail a little bit. Over under slide size, you can choose whether you want a standard or whether you want a widescreen or you want to create a custom slide. So you can determine that for yourself as you go along. Generally speaking, I don't mess with this one. Format gives you the opportunity to actually change that background so that you can go in and, for example, choose a solid figure and you can choose patterns, and then you can choose to apply to all, so that it's very easy to change your background from one thing to another and apply to all. Those are the key features that you have available for design, and they're pretty powerful, they're pretty effective, and they're pretty quick. Now, let's take a look again at our old friend, design ideas. Because as you can see on the side, design ideas is always ready to give us a suggestion. Let's take a look at our first slide. Okay, at our first slide, we could accept the design on the right that looks like this, or this, or this, or this, and it goes on. So generally, you'll have a good number of designs. As you can see, this is just applying to one slide at a time. And that's generally the best way to use it because it's designed around the configuration of headlines and pictures that are in your slide.
You ever feel the urge to take out your pen and draw your ideas? No, it doesn't occur to me much either. But for some people, it's a handy option. If you think better while you are drawing, or if you're a mathematician, you may like draw. The main action is around a set of drawing tools, which act as pens, pencils, and highlighters. You have a varied palette of colors, and some, as you see, don't fit the description of basic colors. 3 pens are designated red, black, and blue, but can be changed to any color shown on the palette. On the same palette, you can select a size for your pen to fit the task. To the left of the drawing tools are the moving and undrawing tools. The arrow will select anything on your slide. The ink lasso will only select hand-drawn drawing objects. And finally, the eraser can be used to selectively remove points, segments, and strokes. Drawing freehand is fine, but you may want to tidy up. One of the 3 convert tools will convert ink text to type fonts. Another will turn your shapes into more precise figures. There is also something for mathematical symbols, but we are not going to wade in that far. Even if you are drawing freehand, a straight edge could be useful. So select the ruler and use it to guide your pen. If you place your pointer on the ruler compass and spin the wheel on your mouse, it will change angles.
We're going to take a look at these 3 tools right now. As you recall, we have 2 modes for making selections, and we have our special little handy-dandy eraser. So let's start with the selections. If we choose the arrow, we can go down and we can surround these 2 figures, one mechanically drawn, one hand-drawn, and we can move them around. No problem, no difficulty whatsoever. If we want to click and we can superimpose them, so go back to grab the arrow, and it'll still pick them up and move them around. No confusion. Okay, but let's say that sometimes we want to be able to separate those hand-drawn figures from the mechanical drawn figures. In that case, we go up and grab the loop. And the loop is special because when we use the loop, we put it around our figures and it surrounds them, but it only works on the hand-drawn figure so that when we move it, only the hand-drawn figure will move. Now let's take a look at selectively erasing the hand-drawn figures. We go back to our eraser, we open the eraser, and we find a submenu. In the submenu, we find segment eraser. Segment eraser allows us to go down here and select pieces and take them out as we wish, but it doesn't take the whole thing. Or we could come back, we could be even a little more specific, and we can select point eraser. And if we click on different spots, we can take spots out. So for various reasons, we might want to chip away, use this kind of piranha type technique for erasing things. The next option, the third and final option, in the eraser is to go back and select for stroke eraser. Now I'm going to take a look at our ability to convert both letters and shapes from hand-drawn to mechanical. So how do we do that? Draw. We come down here and we have cat. Okay, cat is a word. And we're going to surround it and select it. Okay, so we have cat. Now we go back to ink to text, and bang, we turned our hand-drawn cat into a beautiful mechanical cat. Can we do the same thing with shapes? We have a nice triangle here. We select it, and we go back to ink to shape. Click on it, and it turns into a formal looking triangle. We're going to look at something called ink replay. It's the last thing on the list for draw. And if we go up and click ink replay, as you can see, it's very aware of the drawing that I put in earlier. And below it, you should see a little time track. If I grab the dot on the time track, I can move it backwards and gradually undraw the drawing in the same order that I drew it. So that if I'm doing something fairly complex and I get almost to the end and I mess up, I can turn on ink replay and go back and fix it. Or if I did that by mistake, I can go back and put it all back in place.
Whether your goal is an engaging presentation or a compelling video, your role is a lot like the director's. You need to plan and manage the action to keep the attention of your audience. In this, transitions are an important tool. Directors never simply follow an actor around and film what happens in real time. Not often, in any case. What they do is shift from character to character, place to place, and situation to situation in order to increase the drama or comedy of the film. Films must bounce from scene to scene to get our attention. In films, time must be compressed and gaps in time extended so that the full story can be told, but with only the most interesting moments. Transitions, together with animations, help us to tell our story, whether it's short and simple or long and complicated. There are dozens of ways to move between slides, and they can be modified to your needs. They fall, though, into three major styles. Subtle, which are likely to be appropriate to more academic or professional presentations. Exciting, for instructional situations where you need to motivate your audience a little more emotionally. And dynamic, when you want to go for the grand effect. Subtle is to present to a professionally motivated audience, more interested in gathering data than in being entertained. Not that a certain stage presence isn't essential. The changes are less disruptive, but manage to signal that a change has indeed happened. Exciting adds more glitz and action to the transition. The transition is kind of an event of its own. Dynamic transitions are intended to project business or science doing powerful things. These are your options in all three categories. There are several ways that you can modify each. We'll take a look at that in an active file very soon.
We're in the live file now, and as you notice at the top, we've got a nice selection. And as we've discussed, there are three major areas that you can select from when you are choosing transitions. You can open them up and you can decide whether you're going to be in subtle, exciting, or dynamic content. Let's start by taking a look at subtle. And I've clicked it with no particular setup at this point, but let's try a fade or maybe a push. How about random bars? And then cover. And we can set these to work on all of them, or we can set them to work on an individual item. If we go over to the right, you'll see that we have the apply to all selection available to us. We also have several effects that we can apply to any of these transitions. If we open up effect options, you can see that you can decide how you want the effect to enter and how you want it to manifest itself on the slide. Okay, let's take a look at exciting. Let's try glitter. Maybe vortex. Or perhaps we want to go with shred. So we get some fairly dramatic effects out of this one. And we go down to those dynamic content choices, and we'll start with pan. Or perhaps one of my favorites, Ferris wheel. So you can see what the effect is going to be before you actually do it. So that makes it very easy to match the effects you're looking for against the content, against the tone of what you're trying to present. So I've saved the best for last. As you may have noticed in the slides, there is a little Shamrock Man. We're going to use Shamrock Man as the control mechanism in a special kind of morph transition. So if we open up and we go back to subtle, we're going to select morph. All right, now what morph does is if you select any photo or group of photos and carry them forward from one slide to the next, rather than an abrupt change when you move from slide to slide, you will actually see those pictures transform. We're going to go to present and take a look at, there's Shamrock Man. He's introducing transitions. Aha, he moves again and again and again. So any photo that you set into transitions is going to slide smoothly from one condition, one size to another. So you can use this for
Have you ever been in a class, or worse yet, taught a class and been confronted with a PowerPoint like this? Boring, not so good, not going to hold much attention. PowerPoints ought to look more like this. And you ought to be able to use features like, well, disappear, or bring some things in. Maybe list your points one by one. Maybe even put a little animation in. And collect all kinds of interesting visuals to get the attention of your audience. In this video, we will see how PowerPoint animation can be used to do all of these things relatively simply and add a lot of life to your next presentation.
Okay, let's take a look under the hood. Let's see how animation works, what you can do with it, and we're going to use the example of the slides that I just showed you to see just how we made all that good stuff happen. Here we are back at my PowerPoint, and the first thing we want to do is take a look up at the top of the menu. And our menu gives us a lot of options, but one of those options that a lot of people miss is animations. They think, well, you're going to turn everything into cartoons. That's beyond me. I don't need to do that. I'm a serious professor. But no, animations are ways that you can move and materialize and generally control the visuals that are in front of your audience. And all right. You take a look at it, you can choose to do a different kind of entrance. For example, we can just have something up here, or we can kind of fade it in, or we can fly it in, or we can do a grow and turn. Let's do a grow and turn to our introduction. Bang. Okay, that was kind of interesting. Now let's go back. And we've got a lot of other things that we could do. We could just do some things to emphasize that introduction. Maybe brush it with color. Okay, so that gives you something that's kind of sitting there, and then suddenly you get a stroke of color. Or maybe we could underline it. Okay, that is something that can happen at a click, or we can set it to happen however we want it to happen as we move along. You see there's a little 1 up there. So we now know that this is the first thing that's taking place. Now I'm going to put it back because I'm going to look at a different set of options. We've emphasized and we've used entrance. Down here is exit, and exit is kind of cool, because exit is one in which you are able to have something there at the beginning, and then you make it disappear, and you move on to the rest of your presentations. That's exactly what we did with introduction before, and let's see if we can come up with let's use random bars. Before we were using something like a wipe, but this time let's use random bars, and as you see, it just disappeared. How to go off in 3 easy steps. You remember that we had that come on board as a wipe. A wipe is one of those ways of bringing things on, but we have a lot of control over these wipes. take a look over here at the top. If you go over and you're going to find animation pane. If you click animation pane, you're going to see that all of the animations in this particular slide are listed right here. We can change their order. We can move them around. We can make them happen when we want them to happen. We can change the type of animation that we want. Let's take a look. We're looking at how to golf in 3 easy steps. Now, if I open this up, little arrow on the right. All right, it's set to start on a click. So basically, I'm controlling how these effects take place. Now, over here, if I go down, I've got effect options. And if I look at it, I can have it come from the left. I could come from the right. I could come from the top or come from the bottom. Let's move it from the left. And there we go. All right. And we're not going to use any sound with this, but we have a choice down below in how we deliver it. And I've chosen by letter, but you could have it come on all at once or it come on by word. I'm kind of going for effects in this particular example. If I were giving a regular presentation, I might simply have it come on all at once and keep it simple. But you do have options. It's good to know them. You also have timing. And timing can be very important because timing allows you to control how much time is spent in doing the effect. In this case, I've set it at 2 seconds. I could make it come in at up to 20 seconds, very slow, or I could have it happen really quick. So you've got a lot of choices there. But we're going to stay with 3 seconds and click OK. And here it comes again. And it's just kind of sweeping across. So that's kind of interesting. And at this point, we're looking at the screen that we work with. The things below, I know the rules, use proper equipment, join a nice screen. If you're presenting it, they're not going to appear until you want them to appear. So if we go down and take a look at know the rules, we see that it's set at fly in. Now, we can have things come in a variety of ways. I kind of like fly in. It's a lot of fun because you can move it. You can have it come from the top. You can have it come from the bottom, just like we saw in the previous effects. And I'm going to close that up for right now. Okay, let me show you something that you can do while you're in animation. If we go right to the top, after we've gone through, we've completed our animations, we've inserted the pictures and so on that we want to have, we can click play from. And that allows us to present our whole page in the order that we want to present it in. Get a nice effect. Let's move down to our next slide and see if we can't come up with something a little different. All right. Remember in this slide, we had several different things going on. And let's just walk our way through that slide again, because as you see over on the side, we have animation. And we can play each of the things that happened again. We can select and play right from the start, or we can select and play at any point. But we're going to select and play right from the start. And we'll see just what's going to happen. Okay, so we introduced each of those. You'll see each of the images has a number attached to it. And that number, as you click on the item, you get a highlighting over here on the side. So if I click on the ball, there's an 8, picture 8, and it's the 3rd. I can change that sequence just by moving these ups and downs around over here. Okay, I'm going to show you one last little bit of magic with the animations, and that is, how do you get something to drive across the screen? Well, you know, that's actually a lot easier than it looks. So I need to move out a little bit to let you see what's been going on there. And I've kind of hidden this guy over here. This is got a little turf left over from an earlier example. But this is our guy who is clearly not on his way to go golfing, but we want him to run across the screen. But we don't want him to stay in the screen after he runs across. So how do we do that? We put him over to the side, and then we go to animation, and we've set him to fly in. And if I look down here on the side, he's graphic, he's number 2 in the sequence, and graphic 4 is how they describe him. But he starts on a click, and here's his effect options. He's coming from the left. If we want to, we could add a little bounce to it. Let's do that. See whether that makes any difference. And there's a variety of things. We could add sound. I generally don't find adding sound works for me really well. The sounds are all a little squawky, so I don't recommend that. Timing, though, is a great place to play around. We've got him coming across in 3 seconds. We could have him racing across in 2 seconds if we wanted, or meandering across. Let's put him across very slow. All right, now let's click OK. And there he goes. All right, so that is how we use animation. It's really straightforward. Remember, you've got 3 different categories to choose from in introducing or taking things off or emphasizing. And you can use any of these, and you can take them off and put other things on at any point until you have a presentation that looks the way you want it to look.
Okay, and we get our opening page, and this is the introduction. The introduction won't show in our normal presentation, but I'm just trying to make clear on each page what the function of the page is. This is an example of the disappearing animation that we looked at earlier. Kind of handy. There it goes. Now the first part should come on. This is the title of our series, How to Golf in 3 Easy Steps. And we get started with a little animation. Know the rules. Use proper equipment. And join a nice green. So these are 3 things that we want to include in our introduction that might be important to our audience. Okay, content 1, you'll see it's going to disappear, and we're going to focus on proper equipment. No, he's not that proper in his equipment. Let's see if we can do better. A golf ball, handy. Golf clubs, very handy. And of course, appropriate attire, because golfing in most countries is a very social activity, and what you wear on your feet, on your gloves, your hat, they're all part of saying, you know, you're part of a particular social group. So these are your basic pieces of equipment that you'll need. All right, the second slide talks about the rules of golf. So content number 2. And okay, we've got a nice cart to ride in. And we're bringing up the rules so that the group to which we're presenting can see the rules as we're speaking about them. but they're small enough that they're probably not going to try and read these too much, but it kind of illustrates the sequence of rules that you need to know. And then content 3, the nice green. And here comes our golf ball. Bang. And here's our very social people getting along and having a great time golfing. And then finally, we have the conclusion, which is that golfing's big fun if you have the right equipment, if you know the rules, if you have a good place to go. Let's go golf. SLIDESHOW is a bit more complicated than turning on your TV or sending an email. We'll look at the 3 major parts that you need to know now in order to run a good show. We'll break off the record section and return to it later when we're ready to make videos. Let's begin at the beginning with an overview of how to start and run your slides. Simple, perhaps, but many college students don't know how to begin their presentation. Next, we'll dig into how to get ready. Like any other event critical to your success, some coaching and practice are essential. Finally, there's a few interesting things we can do to tweak the presentation, particularly for an international audience. To start the presentation, simply go to SLIDESHOW, then select from the beginning. We've opened the first slide of a presentation that we prepared earlier on golfing. We click our way through the introductions and the animated text, and then the next slide will come up. We don't have to begin at the beginning. We can jump around or restart after an interruption by using the From Current slide icon. Sometimes we may not want to present all our slides. Perhaps an abbreviated or expanded presentation may be needed for some audiences. Custom SLIDESHOW will let us do that. Open up and select New. Click and you choose from a list of your slides to create a custom presentation. One or more can be stored for future use. You can come back at any time and run your custom show. Let's get ready for the show. When we're getting ready, we can rehearse with a coach. We can modify the settings for our slideshow, and we can even set up a schedule of times for our slides so that the show can simply run on its own. Rehearse with a coach is a great feature. I actually ran it during several slides of our example golf presentation and generated the report that you can see on the screen now. You can do this anytime with any presentation, and it'll come back and it will critique your speech. It'll tell you if you're going too fast or too slow. It'll tell you whether you are maintaining a reasonable pace and whether you are making a lot of mistakes. So it's a great little report. It's like having your own little AI angel sitting on your shoulder helping you to move along. Setup SLIDESHOW contains several settings for your show. Under Show Options, you can choose to have a previously recorded narration play, or you can present it in your own voice. You can also determine which slides you will show and from which slide you will start. Finally, you can select manual or scheduled time to advance your slides. The latter is handy when you want to be able to stand aside and speak while the show advances of its own accord. There are several ways in which you can tweak your show to take advantage of PowerPoint subtitles or subtitle translations. PowerPoint provides dictation, translation, and subtitle services linked to its language translation and voice utilities. The subtitle settings in SLIDESHOW are a powerful feature because they let you translate your presentation simultaneously in any of dozens of languages. Once you have selected the language you will be speaking and the language you wish translated to, you can check Always Use Subtitles, and the subtitles will be automatically generated when you speak on your next presentation.
We're going to set subtitles so that they translate automatically into Spanish as we speak. We go to Slideshow, and over on the right-hand side, you're going to find Subtitle Settings. Let's just open that up. And you'll see that you can select the microphone that you're going to use. You can select the spoken language and the language you're going to translate into. In this case, it's going to be Spanish. You can choose where you would like to have the words come in on the slide. They can be below the slide. They can be overlaid on the slide at the top or the bottom. We're going to select bottom overlay. And just to make sure everything's nailed down, we're going to go up and click Always Use Subtitles. Begin our presentation. And as we begin our presentation, you will notice that Spanish is filling in at the bottom.
SLIDESHOW offers you options to start from the beginning and to start from a particular slide, but it also offers you the option to record. And this is what we're going to be doing today. You can use the screen that you see now in order to record any type of PowerPoint that you put together and present that narration automatically rather than having to read a script as you go along. So as an example, we're going to use coronation from English history as a subject, and I've put together a short PowerPoint that covers the main points of coronation and its role in British society. So what do? You go to record slideshow. It's right up there next to beginning on current slideshow, but the difference is that you are able to actually record your PowerPoint. So we have three key positions over on the top left-hand side. One is to record, one is to stop, and the other is to replay. Meanwhile, over on the right-hand side, you have options of clearing. So even if you make a mistake on a particular slide, you can delete it. You can keep the slide, but you can delete the narration, then you can redo it so that you can't really get in too much trouble as you do your narrations. Okay, let's take a look at this. We've got it into narration, and we're going to, we've gone through, we've done our narration, now we've gone back to our slide. And when you go back to your slide, all you have to do is just restart your presentation, and the automatic aspect of it will take over. Your narration recording will come back, and you'll be able to do the whole presentation from your PowerPoint as if, well, and it is recorded, so that you don't have to say a word in order to do your presentation. So you'll know exactly how long your presentation will be. You'll be able to edit your presentation in advance. So it gives you a big advantage in doing presentations. So we've gotten that part down. Now, how do we turn all this into a video? Well, that's really fairly easy. We go to File, and in File, you're going to find a place called Export. Well, when you click on Export, it's going to open it up, and you'll have the option of Create a Video. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to click on that, and when you click on that, it's also going to open up the option to Create Video, and that is the next step in making your video. When you click on that, it's going to come up. It's going to give you the option of saving your PowerPoint as a video. This is an MP4 video. You'll be able to save that to whatever directory you've set up for it, and you'll have a video that's ready to go. All by itself, you can just play it, or you can edit it. And this is the next step in making training films that are going to be effective, and they're going to be professional looking for your students. And if you look at your Microsoft down in the bottom left-hand corner of Windows, you're going to see something that looks like a Windows. When you open that up and click P, Photos will come up. And Photos is an application that allows you to edit both your pictures and your videos. So we've opened it up, and in this case, you can see a bunch of videos that I've accumulated this semester and in past semesters. Now you select Video Editor. You can either return to a video you've been working on, or you can click on New Video Project, and that's what we're going to do. Give it a name, something that's reasonable, something you'll be able to remember, so that when you're looking for it and you've lost it later on, it'll be easy for you to bring it back up. Then you're going to select photos and short videos from various sources. The video that you just recorded from PowerPoint can be part of what you choose to pull into this new video project, but you can also grab other short videos for your openings and your closings, or for parts of your show. You can grab pictures that you have reserved so that you can create a standard look for your videos for a particular course. And you once you pull those in, then you can place them down on storyboard, which is the part that's just down below across the bottom. And each of the things that you place down there can be edited. You can make it shorter, you can make it longer, you can add music to it, you can do a variety of things with the clips that you've put on the bottom. You can add text to them so that that you can have an opening to your video, or a closing credits to your video. You can do 3D effects, and you can do a variety of things to make it more interesting. You can even change the speed of the video. Sometimes you might want to speed up or slow down a video. You can do it with these controls. And when you eventually get done, you're going to have a series of strips of videos across the bottom. There'll be photos, there'll be videos, there'll be text slides that you can put in, and when you play them, they will come across as being one complete video. So what do we do next? Well, we're going to save it, and to do that, after we've added music and any final text or effects that we want, we're going to go to the top right hand corner, and you're able to finish the video up there. And basically you're going to export it to a file that you've set up, and you'll give it a name that's appropriate for the video. Don't give it exactly the same name as the video editing file, otherwise you'll tend to get those confused later on. But save it as something that, that you'll be able to recall and put it in a directory that relates to the class that you're doing. Okay, this brings us to the end of our video series. You're able to go from creating a PowerPoint to turning it into a full-fledged video. So just